So that's the million-dollar question that everyone's been asking us over the course of the last few months, and the truth is,
welcome to our virtual open house. Today, to spice it up a little bit, I brought in my friend and also client, Mr. Josh Dorfman from Northwestern Mutual. Could you please introduce yourself, Josh?
good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. David, thanks for the opportunity. I'm a financial advisor and chartered financial analyst with a company called Northwestern Mutual. My team and I, based here in DC, serve clients around the country in supporting their individual, family, and business financial planning needs. So here to share some thoughts about how to plan through these current economic situation.
So Josh, what impact will the virus have on the stock market moving forward, in your opinion?
So that's the million-dollar question that everyone's been asking us over the course of the last few months, and the truth is, nobody knows for certain. I mean, this virus is so unpredictable. The world's best scientists haven't figured out what's going to happen yet, let alone how policymakers are going to respond. So it could very well be that we already hit the bottom in the middle of March and we're just riding upward from here. Or it could be, depending on how long it takes us to get under control, that we might have continued economic decline for the short term. So the question that we like to share with folks is, if we needed the money in the stock market, we should have taken it out prior to this occurring. And for those that have more of that longer term view, rather than try to time it, which is going to be next to impossible, is really just to take a long term view of letting it ride and not trying to worry about the timing of the tops and the bottoms.
So Josh, if one had to readjust their portfolio, is there any recommendation you would make?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of key things that people can be doing right now. One is that everyone can participate in something called rebalancing. So if your portfolio is supposed to be 60% stocks and 40% bonds, and of that 60% stock portion, 30% was supposed to be in domestic stocks and 30% was supposed to be international, those asset allocation, that percentage that's allocated, has probably changed pretty dramatically, and you probably have a lot more in bonds than you have in stocks right now. So the simplest thing is just to rebalance back to that target allocation that you set before we entered the crisis. And that's something that we should be doing on a regular basis, usually quarterly or semi-annually anyway. But when we get these wide swings, it's really important to do so. And that allows us to sell what's doing well and buy what hasn't been doing well, so we're constantly selling high and buying low. So rebalancing is the first one. Second, and this doesn't apply to retirement accounts, but for those that are in taxable investment portfolios, maybe an individual or joint account, this could be an opportunity for what we call tax loss harvesting. So we know as we make gains on our investments, we're due to taxes on that capital gain. So when we have a period of downturn, we might be able to sell before we recognize that gain, or in some instances, we might actually have a loss in some of those investments. So we can swap out S&P 500 Index Fund A and replace it with S&P 500 Index Fund B. In truth, they're probably identical investments, but we're able to do so with much more favorable tax consequences as a result.
So Bellevue Forest allows a professional working in DC to commute to his or her work within 15 minutes while living in this amazing suburban oasis, which does not feel like you're 15 minutes from the hustle and bustle of Washington, D.C. We are also only 15 minutes away from Amazon's headquarters 2 at National Landing, which is currently being built and will complete by December of 2020.
Would you like to comment on people keeping their down payments in the stock market?
Yeah, absolutely, David. So our philosophy is that if we need to be accessing the investments to use for their intended purchase in the next 12 to 24 months, they really shouldn't be in the stock market. And as we witnessed in the past few weeks, the reason why is because they can decline in value so rapidly. So having become a client of David's very recently with purchasing a home, one of the things that I prepared to do in the late summer and fall, knowing that I was planning to buy in early 2020, was I actually removed those stock positions and instead replaced them with either just cash holdings or more conservative bond or fixed income holdings. So as folks are planning to purchase a home within the next 12 to 24 months, that's certainly something that we advise, is getting them off the roller coaster and the short-term uncertainty of the stock market, and instead replacing with something that gives us much more short-term certainty and predictability.
So this is our basement, but if I didn't tell you that and you just came in here, and now continuing on, I would like to ask you, John, how would I evaluate my insurance needs at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the virus has made everyone very aware of our own mortality. And during these times, we've seen reports of Google searches for life insurance suddenly skyrocketing. So what's interesting is that during this time, many financial firms are, especially insurance companies, are making it much easier for folks to apply for insurance. So in some instances, they may waive the need for a physical that typically needs to occur to acquire life or disability insurance. So it would be a good time if you already have a financial planner that you're working with to make sure that you reach out and say, hey, do I truly have enough? I might have been dragging my feet on getting the right amount for the last 6 to 12 months, but I'm ready to pull the trigger today. So we always encourage folks to make sure they're working with the appropriate expert and make sure they have enough to cover whatever their needs might be for their loved ones should they pass away or should they be sick or hurt and miss work for an extended period of time. Always an important need, but one that people are hyper vigilant to in these times.
So we're going through some tough economic times right now, but our government instituted a program called CARES Act, and I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Absolutely. So for the CARES Act, there are going to be two distinct portions of it. There's one that benefits individuals and families, and one that benefits employers, small businesses, and nonprofits. We'll start with the individual and family portion right now. So two of the key elements for those that might be a little bit farther established in their financial planning are the ability to make withdrawals from their retirement account prior to reaching age 59 and a half without a penalty. So typically, in many circumstances, if you need to withdraw from those accounts, in addition to some form of taxes, there would also be a 10% penalty that applies. But given the circumstances, the government has waived those should you certify that the economic climate makes that withdrawal necessary. And what's fascinating is you're actually allowed to replenish that money over the course of the next few years. That's very, very rare that such circumstances arise. Also for folks that are required to make what we call RMDs, or required minimum distributions from retirement accounts. So that could be individuals age 72 and above, or it could be those that inherited retirement accounts and are typically forced to withdraw. This year, because the stock market has declined the way it has, the government has waived that required minimum distribution. For folks that might be at earlier stages of their financial planning, particularly those that might have student loans, if those are federal student loans, the required payment for those has been suspended temporarily. And what's interesting is that doesn't accumulate any interest during that time too. So there's benefits for those that are more established and benefits for those that are starting out. And of course, with the stress this has put it on nonprofits, there's also going to be an opportunity for folks to make charitable contributions that are going to be taxed much more favorably than they have been in the past. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you're still looking to give in times like these, just know that there are going to be relaxed standards for what might have been tax restrictions on that.
Now I have a question. The government is issuing those $1,200 bailout checks, and I understand a lot of people still haven't gotten it. Could you explain to us what is going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that have received a tax refund recently, the government is just going to do an automatic direct deposit into their bank account. But for those that might not have received a refund, maybe because they owed at the end of the year, instead they're going to be receiving a mailed check. And of course, the electronic deposit, in many instances it already happened, it's much quicker,
For those that are waiting for a mail check, it could take some time. So the IRS has actually set up a website where you can log in with your personal identifiable information and see where you are in the queue and when you can expect it. Yeah, absolutely. So what's gotten a lot of attention is the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, and of course the EIDL loans, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We'll certainly address those in a moment, but I find there are a couple other considerations that people aren't discussing as often right now. One of them is the opportunity for employers to pay a portion of their employees' student loan tax-free. This is a new provision, so if you want to give a bonus or even pay part of your employee's compensation in the form of student loan payments, you can do it without the employee having to pay income tax on it, which for the business owner or employer as well means not having to pay the payroll taxes on your side. So that's a good opportunity to pass the money to your employees, especially if times are good. If business is doing well right now, as a thank you for the hard work that they're putting on. The other thing is a really crucial distinction that was actually changed in the 2018 tax bill, something called net operating losses. So previously, the terms of the tax law were very favorable to businesses that might have lost money in one year, being able to carry those losses forward or even carry them back to offset profit that they might have had in previous years. When the sweeping tax bill was overhauled in 2018, that was changed and made less favorable. That was something that wasn't very popular. So with the CARES Act, that has been restored, allowing business owners the opportunity to carry those losses forward to offset taxes in future years. Of course, the PPP, that's something that's very popular right now. And as this stands April 19th, the PP loan program has been exhausted. It's possible that small employers, it could be business owners, it could be nonprofits, for 8 weeks, meaning that they could receive a loan and that loan would be forgiven as long as they used it appropriately within the parameters of the program and they kept their employees on the payroll. The idea being, as a supplement to that $1,200 stimulus check that we've heard so much about, is an opportunity for those employers to continue to pay their employees, to keep stress off of the unemployment insurance, and to keep those folks at their full income. That program was extremely popular. It overwhelmed the SBA, and they used up all of the currently allocated funds. There are discussions in Congress right now for that program to be expanded and for the opportunity for more employers to get in line. So if that happens, that's a great opportunity. And if not, there's something called the EIDL loan that businesses can apply for. Terms are typically not as favorable as the PPP, but it could be a great cash infusion for those that are really feeling a liquidity pinch today.
So Josh, now I have a question. How are financial firms responding to the current crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. So given the widespread impact that they're having, many firms are doing very generous offers in order to keep their customers in an accommodating position. So for one, several lenders are waiving loan payments or waiving the requirements, or even in some instances relaxing interest or penalties for being late. So that is something that folks who might feel a pinch right now, they may want to take advantage of. We do caution folks to make sure that before they pull the trigger, that they do speak with their lender to understand all of the considerations. There might not be a penalty associated with it, but in some instances, it might still show up on your credit report. So should you want to apply for a mortgage, or should you want to apply for some other form of loan over the course of the next few years, that history will still be on there. And of course, we'll be able to explain it was during the coronavirus crisis, but you want to make sure that you have all of those considerations before you do that. We discussed earlier certain insurance firms waiving the requirement to have physicals. In light of social distancing, many people, especially those with young children, want to get their life insurance taken care of, but they don't want a stranger coming into their house
to take the physical. So in those instances, certain companies are waiving the requirement, or at the very least delaying the requirement for several months in hopes that we'll be able to recover from the need from social distancing. Auto insurance companies are issuing refunds, knowing that many people aren't on the road right now. They're passing that, and then of course there are fewer accidents, they're passing the savings that they're witnessing on to their customers as well. So many of those financial firms are doing what they can to protect their customers during this time.
So we can ask you, how have your clients been doing in the last month and a half?
So that's been a really interesting distinction. We've been working with our clients in many cases for years, and others we're meeting for the very first time. And what we've noticed is that there's a distinct difference in how they're feeling, not necessarily because of how their finances look, but because of how they feel about their plan. So our term is very focused on providing what we call comprehensive financial planning. So instead of focusing just on investments or just on insurance or just on tax planning, we take a lot of pride in making sure that we assist our clients with all elements of those plans and that those decisions are made in conjunction with one another. As a result, our folks they know that they don't need to worry about the ups and downs of the stock market as part of their plan because they have the proper emergency fund and other elements that have allowed them to be defended and protected during these times. Whereas other folks that we might have met for the first time, they have a lot of different stuff. And in many instances, it's the same stuff that our clients have, but they're not coordinated together as part of a plan. And as a result, they don't feel as secure. So my challenge to folks that are listening right now is if you're feeling anxiety around your money, it may truly be that you're in a good situation, but having a financial plan has been shown to give folks such a greater sense of security. So what I would advise everyone to do is to have a consultation with some advisor who might be able to tell you, hey, you're doing everything right, there's no changes you need to make. You'll be able to sleep so much better knowing that's the case. And we find that's the biggest differentiator.
Well, thank you, Josh. We're going to put Josh's contact info as well as his website, Facebook page, etc. in the comments section once we're done with this virtual open house.